So Todd. All right, our speaker this morning came and visited with us last year. He is with REMAX Realty. He is a broker and an owner. Please welcome Wayne Short.
I'm going to make it tough for the people in the corner. I was telling him I had a bad tooth deal, had a root canal yesterday. I'm taking drugs. If I stand up too much, I'll be on the floor. So, and I'm a big guy to pick up. So I'm going to sit here and kind of talk about residential real estate. Anywhere in my, it's just going to be this conversation or rambling that it might be. You please ask any questions that you want. If I don't know it, I'll find out and I'll send the data back here and let you know. I've been in the business since 1981 as a residential real estate agent. Our company is primary residential. I don't do too much investment. We do a little bit of land work in western Kansas. A couple of our agents do. We do very, very little commercial if you're a commercial here. So we'll probably talk more so about the residential side. I put out a blog and a report. I take the MLS data every month, and I'll take it and throw in some business news, and I'll do a blog on that at least once a month, maybe twice a month, and put that out if you ever want to go online and check that out. And I'll give you those addresses when we get done here. I think I got the call again because Todd got my end of the year report that we did, and also we're talking a little bit about what's happening on business. Probably the biggest thing that we've seen in the business side is we thought this economic recovery would have started before it did. We really thought it was going to take place last summer, last fall on the residential side. And it did a little bit, but you know, if you look at Cessna, you look at Learjet, and particularly Beach, you know, they've not really recovered too much. Learjet has picked up that Learjet 85 program. They're bringing 400 or 500 people in. I just brought in the number 2 guy that's going to run the program. But they're really a year or two away from that really gearing up. Cessna's been bringing a few people on, cleaning up a few things. Beach is just trying to stay alive. You know, they brought a new CEO. If you've read the papers, you know, they brought a new CEO on that's a recovery specialist. In the process of bringing them on, they also brought on bankruptcy attorneys if they have to go that direction. So they're in really bad shape there. And that would not be good for us because that's 4,000 people here in the Wichita market. Plus, it also impacts suppliers who make things for them, so it's a huge ripple effect. I know, as most of you know, that for every base employee that a town has, and a base employee is usually a manufacturing employee, that Spirit or Cessna or Learjet, that tends to generate 1.5 to 2.5 other jobs in the metropolitan area. So when we had this meltdown back in '08 and got rid of about 12,000 aircraft workers, it wasn't just 12,000 aircraft workers that went down to 2. We probably at least dropped, 25,000 people as far as jobs. And we're starting to do that recovery. And the reason I'm bringing that up, because that impacts houses, it impacts housing prices, it impacts foreclosures in our market. I was looking at the Sedgwick County appraisal data, and I'm watching 08, 09, 010, 11 to 12, not 12 yet, but then also this final year here, the prices have dropped, it looks like for the first time in about 3 years. I'm seeing everything was stable on my residential properties, and this year you've appraised them less because that's just what's happened in the market for the last 4 or 5 years. So on the real estate side, we're seeing this happen. An example of that is somebody who bought a house back in '09. The layoffs just started in '08. We really didn't know it yet, the impact, but in '09 they bought the house. The market was still kind of high. They did an FHA loan. You put 3.5 down on an FHA plus closing costs, but in reality, your actual loan is about 98% of the purchase. So let's say they bought a $100,000 house for easy calculations for me, and they owe $98,000 in '99, and it's a new house. If we could have bought one for $100,000, and they've gone in and they painted the bedroom pink for the girl and the bedroom blue for the boy, and that's their first house. They don't know how to maintain it. They forgot to put the yard in. You still go out there and see 2- and 3-year-old houses that don't have yards or sprinklers and stuff. And now they have a chance to transfer to San Antonio, or maybe they're going to have to transfer to San Antonio with Boeing military because that's their only option. And they call me, and I go back and I say, well, you paid $200 for it. But it's not worth that because you've messed it up a little bit. Plus the overall market last year said it went down 2%. according to the WSU data that you guys looked at last week, or last month, I guess, from the speaker. And it's going to cost you another 8, 9, 10% to sell it, because we're going to charge them 5, 6, 7% plus another percent or two on the closing costs. So this old boy that has a $100,000 house, he owes 98, or maybe now 97.5, and I'm telling him the house is really worth 95. So he's already 3,000 upside down. Plus he's got to pay all the closing costs. So now this fellow who had no money to start with, I tell him he has to bring 10,000 to closing. And so what are they doing on these? They're renting them or they're walking. Some of them are trying to do strategic defaults. Maybe they weren't really in trouble, but now they're going to make it look like they're in trouble. And so that's why we've seen some prices drop in our market, because once they go into short sales, once they go into foreclosures, we're seeing the market go down up to 20% easy on these values. And so I'm sure then you guys are out valuing properties. Our appraisers are looking at things, and all of a sudden that's not really the market, but yeah, it is. If that's all that's selling in an area and they sold everything FHA or VA 100%, and these homes are selling now, well then all of a sudden that whole area is going down in value, okay? Because that's the only thing that's happening is foreclosures and short sales and things like that. So we're finally starting to get through that a little bit, but that's kind of what we've had to deal with. Nationally, the number, I've seen two numbers today. I'm not doing Googling, I Google everything, try to find some data to work with, and I've seen anywhere from 32 to 37% of the national market was foreclosures last year. If I'm in Nevada, it is 66% of the market is foreclosed properties. So what's that do with everything else? So that has a big impact. Now, Wichita or Kansas is in better shape than most. There's supposed to be right now about 5 million what they call shadow properties. Okay, and that's properties that they're between foreclosure and going on the market, or they're ready to go to foreclosure and go on the market. The banks just now are not touching them because they got enough foreclosure inventory and they want to deal with it. And so there's about 5,000 of those products all over the United States. The majority of that product is in Florida, Ohio, Arizona, California. In Kansas, not Wichita, but in Kansas, out of the 50 states, we rank down the list 37 on foreclosure. So we've done real well because we tend to be a more conservative state. And our values through the years have not gone up 8, 9, 10, 12% every year. They've gone up 2, 3, 4%. So when the market hit and the data dropped, our data didn't drop as much. Okay, so we're in better shape. Actually, a piece of data that I picked up this morning said we probably only have about 12,000 shadow properties in the Kansas market compared to 5 million in the national market that may come on the market over the next 2 to 4 years. So that's going to be a continual impact on pricing, I think, to a degree, though not as much in Kansas. We're a little more immune to that, and our whole Kansas market is recovering. Our economy is starting to recover. Our employment rate's dropped to 6.9% last month. That's below the high of 10% back in, I think it was October of 2009. So we've done a real good job of recovering. Now, you can look at that two ways, the glass half full, the glass half empty. Part of the reasons that our unemployment rate has declined is we have a group of people just said heck with it and left town, and so they're not actually out there applying for it. So, I mean, we didn't hire up that many people, in Kansas. So that has some impact still on housing because, they went where the jobs were. I personally transferred 7 people to Gulfstream in South Carolina. They're leaving the aircraft plants and going out there. So there's a lot of that data that's happening. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, as far as the market goes and everything, we're starting to see, though, the market balance out a little bit. I'll give you some statistics from January, and then I'll show you what happened in February. Existing home inventory that we actually had on the market decreased from about 3,900 in December into January to about 3,600 units. So that's pretty good. Our market in Wichita is decreasing down. In January, we had, or in November last year, we had about 7.2 months of inventory, and then a balanced market is about 3 to 5 months of inventory, and so and when we went into January and February, our inventory is about 5 to 6 months. So we're getting rid of our inventory, which is really good. I looked at the numbers based on. I'll give you some numbers based on last year to this year. There were 12,759 new residential properties placed on the MLS in 2011. That was 11,000 less properties going on the market in 11 than went on the market in 10, which was a good number. How does that apply right now? In January, there were 1,128 houses put on the market. About 10% of that, that's only about 10 units different than last year. So we've stabilized out nicely like that. At the end of the year in 2011, we had 3,374 residential properties that were unsold sitting on the market. That's 9.7% less than the year before. And in January, there were 3,450, and that was 8% drop from the same month a year before. So we're seeing our market, we're cleaning up our market really, really well in Wichita. And one of the reasons we're cleaning it up is because new homes are not being built here as they were, okay? If you've been out seeing that, they're just not being built. One, the banks will not allow them to hold the specs. They're scared to death, okay? And then two, the builders finally got smart a little bit, and they aren't putting that much inventory on the market. So our inventory is down like a third from what it was 5 years ago. So that's really helped our market stabilize and be very, very good. Give you an idea what kind of loans are being done. Last month, of the houses that sold, 138 loans in the Wichita MLS were conventional. 131 loans were cash. So we're seeing our market last year, 25% of all houses sold were cash deals. And if we're selling foreclosed properties, short sale properties, below 50,000, pretty much 100% of everything it's selling is cash. You know, so that's, and there are a ton of folks out. One of the fellows in our office is one of the Fannie Mae sellers. He said anything he gets below 60,000, he will get 4 to 10 offers on. People are pulling their money from stocks. They're pulling their money from the savings accounts. How much you're getting on your savings account at the bank? What, 0.5%? 0? Or they're paying you to keep your money there? I mean, it's kind of, that's the way it is. So what people are doing, they're pulling their money out of that, and now they see that there's no value, there's no interest rates. What they're doing with that is they're buying rental inventory, and they're fixing it up, and they figure that's where they're going to get a return on their money. And so we're seeing lots and lots and lots of folks eat up this cheap market if they get the houses down to the right price. So we see that really happening in Wichita right now. And why shouldn't they do that? And then the other thing that's good right now, why we're going to see this our market really get better, is what's the 30-year rates? 3.875 for a 30-year fixed. A 15-year 13 is like 3.2%, 3.25. My last two clients that were out-of-town transferees, I asked them, I said, how long are you going to be in Wichita? Oh, 4 to 5 years. What kind of loan do you want? I want a 30-year fixed. I said, no, you don't. What you want is a 5-1 ARM. It's locked for 5 years. It can only go up 1% afterwards. You just told me you're only going to be here 3, 4, 5 years. So why pay 3.875? I got both these guys a 2.5% loan. So while they're here, and this is no extra points or anything, 2.5%. Isn't this amazing? And so with these low prices that have happened over the last 2 years, and with these interest rates, it's the perfect storm it should be for realtors. As this employment takes off here, we should be selling a ton of houses as everybody in the city starts figuring out that yes, we are in a better market. So that's what I think is going to happen. I think this year is going to be a recovery year, and we're going to blow out the sky probably in 13, 14, and 15 as they start building more stuff at Spirit and doing more things like that. So I think you're going to see lots and lots of sales happen. It'll gradually start this year, but it really, really will take off next year. You know, so that's